Right. So thank you all for joining. It's great to have you here. I'm really hoping that we are going to lay a foundation today for something that's going to be enduring, that's going to mean something for each of us in our lives, and that's going to be something meaningful for our profession. So let me just I think you've seen what I've said about the concept coming out of civil engineering, where we had a professional body right from the get-go. And I continue to see, I've been only really active on LinkedIn since November. I've been posting on LinkedIn for years, but I've never really engaged with the feed until sometime late November. And what I continue to see is there's just this continuous stream of people writing about ERP is difficult and it doesn't work and people don't adopt and so on and so forth. And I believe there's a better way. And I've encountered throughout my career, I mean, I've been involved in ERP in a commercial sense as a consultant since 1990, that there are people who do things that are not ethical. And I think there's a need for a group where we can get together once a month, share ideas, and just generally make a difference. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. So what I'd like to do is just to go around the room and if you could just all introduce yourself. I'm just going to go around on what I've got on my screen. Oh, Brian, hi, hello.
Hello. You want me to go first?
Let me stick with what's on my screen. So I'll go with Ted first.
Okay.
Ted, just a brief introduction, who you are, and just one or two thoughts.
Okay. Ted Margison. I've been involved with ERP and CRM, but with ERP from the days it was MRP2 and of Ollie White. You know, I guess you guys probably remember, or some of you remember his book. That was the days when Apex was first set up. So I've been doing it since then. Interestingly enough, the issues today are the same as they were then. It's like, go figure that nobody figured out how to pass on learnings from those days to these days. But what I see a lot in LinkedIn and posts is people recognize that it's not a technology issue, that it's a leadership issue, and that, you know, it's also business transformation issue. So I think people recognize, certainly though, like us, all of us who are here, I think recognize that this isn't just, you know, a technology problem. It's not just digital transformation, but also business transformation. And so it seems like there is a gap here. I would have thought change management would address some of these, but oddly enough, when I've talked to people at Price Waterhouse, Deloitte, at Salesforce, and so on, about change management, they go, yes, we focus on how to communicate why we're doing this, and we train people on how to do their job in the new system. And I'm like,
Ted, let's keep it short.
Oh, sure. Thank you. I was just going to say I'm running over time. Sorry. So
okay.
Carry on. Next person.
Penny, if we can just keep it to sort of a minute. Who you are, what you do, and your interest.
No problem. Penny Hopkinson, and I'm the founder and CEO of Manual Magic AI. I've been associated with franchising and ethical franchising standards and creating operations manuals for the last nearly 40 years. And at the beginning of this year, well, in fact, last week, I launched Manual Magic AI, which is a combination of ethical franchising, ethical standards, and ethical AI.
Great, thank you. Brian Oak.
Hi there. Yeah, so Brian, I don't know if everybody's in the UK or not, but
we're all over the place.
All over the place. Well, so I'm in not so sunny Nottingham in England at the moment. So, been around the ERP market since the mid 90s. Came out of manufacturing and supply chain. Been working. I started my career in sort of the second iteration of SAP, I guess. I don't configure. I don't develop. I've done business process, change management, program project management, and now I tend to focus with my clients on preparation for mobilization of ERP programs and then ongoing governance or course correction or exploitation once they've got things live. So independent of any of the product vendors as well.
Great, thank you, Jakob.
Thank you so much. My name is Jakob, or Jacob. I'm the owner and the founder of JBS Advisory, Phase Zero ERP, where I help senior executives, project teams in the whole mobilization. So before they start on the ERP journey, I help them align processes, data models, and the whole strategic mindset. Also very focused on the whole change management of an ERP implementation. I've been in the ERP space for more than 25 years. Like multiple of you in project program change roles. I don't do configuration of the systems myself. I leave that to the system integrator, but I do work closely with the teams. Yeah, so that's a little about me.
Great,
Sounds like
thank you.
Sounds like we've had mirrored career progression.
Yeah, it does, Brian. It does, Brian. And I'm sitting in Greece, so
Right, Peter.
Hi everyone. So I'm an ERP functional professional. I've worked in consulting companies in Africa and the UK. I've also been working with end users as in administrative role. My passion is around good governance in ERP and conscious business practices. So that's what brought me to this platform. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yatunde? Yatunde?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm also based in the UK, by the way. So my background is in Microsoft ERP, not as long as some of you, so just about 5 years in Microsoft ERP, and altogether 8 years in Microsoft technology in general. So I don't configure as much myself either. I'm in pre-sales, so for me, it's about showcasing value. But I quickly realized the real value isn't just in running the transactions and in that sense is about connecting the data across systems to generate insights. So I've shifted from being application centric, or shifted from just being someone who has to represent Microsoft technology, Business Central, F&O, and all kinds of extensions within that. I shifted from being that to insight centric and helping organizations move from reporting to decision intelligence, whether that be in the form of some form of data warehousing and consolidation across different systems to give them true value and true insights on what's happening, almost give them a handbook on the pulse of the business, and they can make decisions based on that.
Super, thank you. Right, so let's have I spoken to everybody? I think I have. Sorry, I can hear a voice. Okay, so let's look at the way forward. Folks, nothing that I'm presenting is cast in stone. These are my thoughts just to get things moving. I don't want this to become something about, well, James Robertson's got it all figured out and we'll just come along for the ride. I want this to be a collaborative thing. I want us to build a community. And I want this to be the planting of the seed for something that in time is going to be much bigger. So what I've got proposed in terms of just a headline is today I would like to form an interim board of 5 to 10 people who will then actively lead the process going forward. I'm thinking in terms of an initial 18-month term. So today is just to get things started. What I visualize is that the board would meet maybe once a month, maybe more frequently, but that would be up to the board to decide. And it will elaborate and extend, and it will also get involved, and I would hope that all of you will get involved in recruiting additional members. The board role is basically to guide the establishment of the institute, the governance framework, the standards, the early member recruitment, and so forth. I'm looking at a sort of basic commitment from anybody who signs up for the board of maybe 2 contact hours a month. So that would be a 1-hour meeting and maybe 1 hour discussing other things. It could be much more if those people who are on the board decide that they want it to be more. But I want to start out with a fairly modest ambition. And then obviously there would be time. So if you're working on the documentation, you would take the documentation away and engage with it and do the necessary. I want to talk a little bit about the leadership. I'm coming from a basis, as I said earlier, of my experience primarily of the Institution of Civil Engineering in South Africa, also the Engineers Council, also the Institute of Mining and Metallurgy, and for a brief while I was also a member of the American Society of Civil Engineers and the Institution of Civil Engineers in London. So I've got moderate experience of what a professional institute can look like, and that's really informed everything that I've put on the table since I floated the idea a few months ago. So I'm visualizing a president who would have overall leadership and external representation of the Institute, custodian of purpose, standards, and tone. Some of you may have seen with my posts on LinkedIn that I'm not a great believer in committees, and particularly not in steering committees. I think that there needs to be somebody who takes responsibility for overall leadership and then is backed up by a team who comes alongside that person and supports them. Vice President, basically to underpin the President, support the President, provide continuity and coordination across board activities. So in my experience, the Vice President is really sort of the right-hand person of the President. And then we've got, and I think this is really important, membership and marketing lead, the development of membership criteria. And there are some basics that have been put on the table. Formulate a recruitment approach and handle external communications. And to some extent, I've put a few little bits of that in place, but what I'm looking for is somebody who would run with that. In documentation, standards, legal oversight of the Constitution, the Charter, the Code of Ethics, the standards documentation. The intent is to seek pro bono legal review where possible in exchange for professional recognition. There's a chap by the name of Guy Kricher that I've met on LinkedIn, a South African lawyer who seems to be quite interested in the whole thing, and I'm hoping I can persuade him to give us a few hours pro bono. I'm not suggesting a treasurer because I don't really want us to start getting involved in charging fees and what have you, albeit that at some point we will probably have to do some registrations or whatever. I'm not aware of anything particular now, so I'm suggesting we don't need that right now. Just to recap, just by a show of hands, how many of you have had a look at this document pack? Okay, so you've got a sense of what's there. I want to stress it's draft for discussion. There's a little bit of a story behind that. I started really engaging with ChatGPT about 3 months ago. And so what I did was I drafted sort of a 3 or 4 page concept statement for the Institute of Business Systems Practitioners. And in my head, that was all I was going to do. And I thought, well, let me just run it by ChatGPT and see if it can tune the wording a bit, because I find that it's quite useful if I give it a draft and it refines the wording. It gave me that, and it came back and said, well, would you like me to create this document and that document? And I said, okay, well, that sort of makes a bit of sense. And over a period of about 4 days, we came up with a constitution, a code of ethics, a charter, and job descriptions and a whole bunch of things which are in this pack. I think there are about 25 documents, and the whole pack is about 100 pages. So I'm hoping that that is a useful foundation, and the person who looks after documentation, I'm hoping will take that further. I want to stress, I don't want to impose this document on the Institute. I want us as a team to work through that document and refine it. And if there's a consensus that some of the documents are irrelevant or not fit for purpose, we'll do whatever we find to do there. And just by the way, the same with the logo. I had ChatGPT suggest some logos, and they came up with 5 or 6 different logos. This was the one that appealed to me most for no particular reason. We don't have to go with the logo. And by the way, we don't have to go with the name. I've just coined Institute of Business System Practitioners because I wanted to create something that was encompassing for any practitioner, not just ERP, although the thrust, because my primary focus is ERP, the thrust on as a whole has tended to be towards ERP, but I don't want that. I think it should encompass AI. I think it should encompass CRM. I think it should encompass WMS, TMS, the whole gamut of business systems, because I think the basic concepts, the basic principles, the basic issues are pretty much the same across the spectrum there. Before I talk too much more, anybody have any thoughts or comments on this at this stage?
Just James, who do you think? Well, I mean, obviously, you must feel that there's no organisations out there that that sort of, I suppose, focus exclusively on this business systems market. Does the I'm not that familiar with the like people like the institute, the British, was it British Computer Society? Is it
British Computer Society?
Yeah.
The Computer Science Society, in my perception, at any rate, is relatively tech focused.
Right.
There's a lot of tech people there. There's a strong tech organization impact there, and I don't see it as being the same sort of offering the same sort of thing that we're talking about here.
What about in terms of, so one of the things I was trying to understand or get my head around from the document was when we talk about things like standards and membership status levels, etc., and the rest of it, what sorts of things, I mean, obviously it's a big discussion to have, what sorts of things we would lean into, because I get, and I agree with we're not trying to put out a body of, well, a body of knowledge type of thing. There are several organisations that, whether it's the project and program management, the business architecture guild, or whatever, who put out bodies of knowledge type stuff, which is almost becoming a dogma methodology type thing. And I guess I get from your pack that that's not the intention. Having said that, I just wondered what the thoughts were around standards in particular, really, because they're set up, and then most professional bodies like this offer some sort of CPD, personal development type stuff. So it needs to be aligned to achieve, getting people to be effective practitioners of the standards, I guess, or demonstrators of the standards.
Okay, let me answer that. I think a couple of points. As far as the continuing professional development is concerned, I see that as an important part of this. And what at this stage that would look like, or I'd like it to look like, or I think it would look like, would be to have a monthly meeting where a member gets up and talks on some topic. Hi, Christopher.
Hi, so sorry for being late. My last meeting.
No problem. We've just
So if I may, I think we need to eventually get to certification. I mean, eventually develop methodologies, just like a lot of the other institutes or associations. So whether it be the Project Management Institute, Change Management Institute, ASCM, I think those are good models to follow because they're setting guidelines for how things get done within their framework. And I think, if I understand correctly, that's where we want to end up. We just have to sort of crawl first by having our community meetings, talking about what kind of what are the core competencies and concepts. And I think then we can evolve over time into a certification process.
Thanks, Ted. Yes, I think that certainly as I see it, you mentioned the Project Management Institute, etc. They're not addressing, or I'm one person. I'm not an expert on this whole field, and that's why we're pooling resources. But I'm not aware of anybody that really addresses the subject of implementing strategic change based on technology in organizations, which is really my passion. I come out of an engineering background. I've done fingers on the keyboard, software programming many years ago, but I've moved beyond that, and my entire focus is how do you implement these systems at a strategic level that really adds value. And I'm coming from a point of view that I've done a few projects which have produced such good results that I was amazed by the results that were produced, and I don't see that happening. So I see that part of what this body would look to do is to facilitate a discussion towards setting a set of standards. And the comment was made earlier that people have been doing these things for years and hasn't improved. And I've got some very strongly held opinions on that. So I think that ties in. Whether we would get to a point of promulgating a formal standard as at the level of the British standard, what do they call them?
BSI,
British standards, or ISO or something like that. That's way into the future. It's not something that but I think it would be useful to produce some guidelines and say and we could put together a working team and say, right, let's put these things on the table and let's come up with a recommendation. And that would run in parallel. In terms of the accreditation, as I outlined in the email that I sent out a few days ago and that I posted on LinkedIn, initially I think it's going to be a fairly fluid thing, but I would like to get to a point where we have student members, we have associate members, we have members, and we have fellows, where a fellow is somebody who has got substantial track record, wisdom, and experience, and who can coach and support others. I would also like to get to a point where one day we have sufficient substance and sufficient credibility that the clients begin to say, you know what, I've got an ERP project coming up or a CRM or whatever, and I'm only going to work with an organization where the senior members are members of the institute. And again, I'm looking, I don't know, 5, 10, 20 years into the future. But, the thing to remember is that the lawyers have the Law Society, the chartered accountants have the Institute of Chartered Accountants, the engineers have the various institutions of engineering. But they all started like we're starting today, with a group of a handful of people who got together and said, you know what, the business that we're in is a bit of a Wild West, and it would be good to bring some discipline, etc., to it. So that's really where I'm coming from.
Well, I absolutely agree. I think, we focus on value realization. You mentioned the value. So if we're focused on value realization from enterprise systems, I don't see any other organization that has that same focus.
Correct.
So I think, that makes us unique. I think as we develop our identity, we're going to want to say, this is how we're different from PMI, the change management, ASCM, so that people understand where we're coming from. I think that's my thinking is, how do we frame it so it's, you know, very clear to people what our focus is and why we're unique compared to the others.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely a space as far as I can see. Other thoughts, other comments, folks, just please feel free just to unmute and chip in. Okay, I'm going to move on. So my next agenda point is willingness to serve, and let me stop sharing and do this. So I've just done it as slides in the presentation just to make it convenient from a screen sharing point of view. So maybe I should turn that around. Is there anybody around the room who's not willing to put in a few hours a month to make this thing a reality? I think the fact that you're here probably is the answer to that question. I probably don't need to ask the question, but is there anyone here who would say, look, you know, I'm curious, I'm interested, but you know, the rest of you guys or guys. So I have a tendency to use guys when there are ladies in the room, Tunde and Penny. It's just a kind of a whatever it is. So is there anyone who's saying, well, you know what? No, I don't really want to get involved. Raise your hands. Okay. So I'm going to move on then, and we've got a number of roles. I'm seeking to keep this meeting as tight as possible, and then hopefully we'll have a bit of slack at the end where we can just have a bit of a round robin conversation and flesh things out. I'm a fairly time-focused person. I'm fairly fast-paced. So part of what I'm wanting this organization to be is not just a talk shop where we have a 1 hour meeting that goes on for 2 hours or whatever the case may be. So I think president is self-evident. Are there any nominations for president? Let's do it that way. Anybody like to put somebody forward? I know that's difficult because none of us really know each other. But...
Well, James, it seems to me this has been your child, so to speak. You might as well lead.
I was going to say the same. Yeah, I second the nomination.
You're not gonna let me off the hook. Okay, well, thank you. I gratefully accept it. I am passionate about it, as I think you all understand. You know, the thing is that, and I shared this in that post that I did a week or so ago. When I started at university in 1973, during the induction week, the Institution of Civil Engineering had a venue, and they got all the civil engineering students together, and they said, this is who we are, and you can join up as a student member, and you'll get our journal, you'll get our magazine, you'll be invited to our monthly events, you'll be invited to our conference, and when you graduate, you can become an associate member and so forth. And along with that was the Engineers Council, and they said, well, similar sort of thing. And so throughout my professional career, I've been a member of an institute. Even when I went into IT way back in 1990, I kept my membership of the Institution of Civil Engineering, and I retained my registration as a professional engineer. And I kept all of that through until I reached retirement age, and it just didn't seem any point. And I'd left South Africa, so there was not much point in keeping it going. My point is, I've always been a member of an institute, and I think it's important, and that's why I'm passionate about it. And it troubles me that there is absolutely no oversight of the industry. I regularly see things which make me feel uncomfortable, if I can put it at that. So, Vice President, any nominations or anybody who'd like to put themselves forward?
I'm just looking at the other roles you've got listed. Can't remember what the complete
so that's the membership and marketing, documentation and standards, and any other role that we can identify.
Mm-hmm.
Any suggestions? I would like. Sorry, Brian, carry on.
I was going to say I wouldn't mind doing a role either on the membership side of things or this role or the vice president role. Yeah, and just see where it goes. So don't mind.
Well, any other suggestions? Any comments? I do know I'm asking a difficult question. I would quite like to put Ted forward as vice president. Then we've got some representation in the United States as well, which I think is important. Or alternatively, Jakob. Gentlemen, would one of you be willing to accept?
I'm up for it. I'll nominate Jakob. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so shall I put Ted in there? And then membership and marketing, Brian, you put yourself forward there. Is there anyone else who would? And this could be a portfolio of 2 or 3 people, actually, because, you know, I mean, so Brian, you've put yourself forward.
Yeah.
Anyone else willing to step forward in that role?
Can you put some more words on it, James? What does it include? Yeah, what does it include?
It's whatever the people who are running it make it to be, I think. You know, it's going to. I think a lot of it is going to be going to your network and saying, "Look, I've taken up this role, and I believe this is important, and I'd like to invite you to the next meeting. Here's the documentation, and I'd like you to." I'm looking at it as really for the first 18 months as just an association by choice. I don't think that we're in a position to have membership standards, but I think we should be working towards a point, and I've arbitrarily picked 18 months, where in 18 months' time, we've got enough credibility and enough substance to say, right, in order to become a member, you have to fill in an application form, and you need to satisfy us that you are committed to the code of ethics and so forth. So, you know, I think, Jakob, maybe you've got a good network there as well.
It's nothing that, no, sorry to say.
That doesn't appeal to you.
In that one. No.
Okay,
I'm a 2 months a project, yeah, on the advisory side. So, yeah.
Okay, is this sorry, quick question, if I may. Does this include figuring out our messaging to them, you know, for marketing purposes?
Yeah.
I would see that. You know, I've done some very preliminary messaging, but it's absolutely open territory.
So, Yetunde, you're in effect in a sales type of position and thinking about that. So, kind of a go-to-market effort. Is this something you could help with?
I'm not too sure. I think I might be able to present myself more as a support across the board. Or perhaps if we open things up in due time, the academy arm of this or the graduate arm of this, in which we are appealing to maybe younger members, as you said, and James, you know, it would be good to sit with you and actually explain, get down why you think it was so beneficial for you to always have been a part of an institute. We can try and spin that narrative to younger people to explain to them the benefits and appeal to them in due time. that's kind of where some of my interests lie as well. I'm about to speak at my alumni, my university, and to some accounting, those studying accounting, to let them know that this is something they can get into potentially in time as well. So, but yeah, more of a support role, I would say, than one of the titles.
I'd welcome to support you. I'd welcome support in this, Yatunde, if in the membership and marketing. Whether you've just spoken about is all about membership and marketing, isn't it?
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, for me, why? I think there's an important piece about a sense of belonging. This is my tribe. These are people who are interested in the same things that I'm interested in, and they're interested in helping me to grow. They're interested in helping me to feel part of an ethical professional body. And I think that sums it up. It's about belonging. It's, as I said, it's a family in a way.
Okay.
That's kind of the way I see it. Now, documentation and standards, that could be as big or as small as you make it. Or I'd like to think that the document pack is actually not bad, bearing in mind that ChatGPT is going away with its large language model, and it's drawing on all sorts of people's constitutions, etc. So I was reasonably satisfied with what was put on the table. But if somebody's got a bit of a legal background who thinks that they could, as a minimum, what I think this would involve would be to take the document pack, read it through. I can connect that person with, I've got a moderate amount of legal background, bit of legal drafting background. I'm quite happy to approach Guy Kricher and see if he would be willing to give us a couple of hours just for a high-level legal opinion. I think it's the main function. At the risk of blowing my own trumpet, I think the document pack is quite reasonable. So I think it's more a case of validating whether that's a true or false judgment, and getting us to a point where we can say, we have these documents, there has been a little bit of legal oversight, and we're confident that this is the foundation on a legal basis for the Institute. So it's somebody who's a little bit maybe legally orientated.
I'd be prepared to support that. I was at the introduction of the white paper on quality back in the 70s, which became BS 5750, which obviously is now ISO 9000. I also helped to write the European Code of Ethics for the British Franchise Association. And I spend my life underpinning the terms and conditions of franchise agreements. So
it sounds like you're eminently well qualified.
Yes,
yes, and Manual Magic AI is all about creating standard operating procedures for business. So that could also be helpful.
Okay, right. So then I've got other. I didn't dig too far into what I thought other roles might be. I'm thinking as we're talking that there's maybe even now. I'm not sure that we should glorify it by calling it continuing professional education, but I think we could have something in terms of technical. As I said earlier, I would like to have a monthly meeting where somebody gets up and does a 35-minute presentation on this is how I do things, or this is a case study, And then there's a bit of round table conversation, which says, well, why did you do it that way? Why didn't you do it this way? And I've had this experience, and just a meeting of minds and a collaborative effort. And I should probably have coined a phrase for that. I haven't. Jacob, I'm wondering if maybe that's a role that you'd be willing to play.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, and I'm happy to walk you through how I work and my experience in, especially around the whole phase zero and the preparation and the aspect of getting clients ready for ERP and bigger transformation.
Yes, thank you. I think there are a lot of, if I look at my experience over the last 3 months on LinkedIn, there are a lot of people who are wrestling with this topic of ERP projects are not going the way we think they should. And I think it's a good place to start. Share your methods, I'll share my methods, etc. And let's get some momentum going there. You know,
exactly, James. And there's a lot of negativity around ERP and why they fail. And I really try to turn it around and say, what can we learn from the good implementations? What can we learn from the top 10 implementations of ERP from good to great methodology, and bring that into aspect, because it's so negative. If you go and look at all the 90% of the content on LinkedIn is around negative failure.
That's right.
So for me, it's just, we cannot, as a group, we cannot learn from that. We can learn from the good implementation. So that will be my message: how we overcome this constant negativity towards ERP, which again is pushing clients not to go ahead with the projects the programs, because they get so afraid things going wrong.
Absolutely. I had that same thought a day or two ago. It's just, you can go into the ERP, into the LinkedIn feed. ERP fails, ERP fails, ERP fails, ERP fails. The diagnosis of why it fails varies from person to person, but the fundamental piece is they're saying, well, it doesn't look like we know how to do this.
Yes. And it may well be because the positivity or what good looks like hasn't been well defined by by industry standard or by the individual. The consultant or the client hasn't been able to yet define the outputs that the ERP is going to help them attain. And so we might be able to provide some language there ourselves, just off the top of my head. I don't know, if you can say some processes were automated, count that as success. If you can say XYZ, count that as a success, and start to give individuals more to play with in terms of what can we look at success being like. Because again, I see a lot of failure and negative rhetoric, and
I think you speak to, and Jakob touched on it. I don't think as an industry there's a clear definition of success. I've not seen
that's right. Exactly.
There's no well-known and well-publicized definition of a successful ERP implementation. There's nothing which says that productivity should increase, profitability should increase, competitiveness should increase, and you should be able to look back a year after go live and see that your business is way better off because you made the investment. And nobody's saying that because nobody's got the confidence that they can deliver on it.
Right.
Are we just talking about ERP here, or are we talking about systems in general? Because everything we've said doesn't just apply to ERP, and any kind of deployment within an organization fits all of these criteria.
Absolutely. I think just most of the people on the call are ERP practitioners, Christopher. But yes, your point. That's why I've called it the Business Systems Institute.
Exactly.
I want to embrace the whole thing: AI, WMS, TMS, CRM, and.
Well, that's kind of more where we fit in, the kinds of things we do.
Right.
But I haven't chimed in over any of the more senior positions, but I'd like to say that if there's a technical requirement or we need assistance in any way deploying or making all these mechanisms work, then I think that might be the best way to apply my skills. Yeah.
For the purposes of what I've got on screen, would you be willing to work with Jakob on this?
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, I've got a lot of experience in getting systems out and in place. My expertise, though, is perhaps a little less on the political or interpersonal side and more on the actual nuts and bolts side. Though, we do a lot of work to make sure that we bring people along when we're implementing, and so I can certainly help there.
So, Yetunde, I picked up from your comments a minute ago that you've got some quite strong views around this topic as well.
It's just more of an observation, and I was just more suggesting to Jakob, like perhaps his couple first posts, what he could suggest. But again, I can support in more than one role.
Could I put you down in this slot here as well?
Yeah, sure.
Christopher, do you prefer being called Christopher or Chris?
I'm cool with either. Chris is cool.
I'm going to put the full name. I'm James, okay. and I hate being called Jim, so I'm quite sensitive about abbreviating other people's names.
It's like I'm sensitive for having a Y in my name rather than an I.
Did I? Oh, yeah, I've got it right, haven't I?
You have, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
no, I have a cousin who spells Brian the same way.
And my surname always causes much hilarity amongst South Africans.
Okay, I missed that. So I think of the people in the room, the only person we haven't got on here is Peter. Peter, would you be willing to work with the rest of this team?
Yeah, I think I can support from the technical side because I'm mostly an implementation person. So yeah.
Could there be another?
Can I change this to technical leadership?
Is it technical or methodology? Like
fair point, yes. Sorry, Yetunde, you were saying?
I was suggesting there might need to be scope for maybe R&D or someone who does a bit more research as to what's out there, just making sure there isn't anything else that is somewhat a competitor, which is okay, but just so that we are sure what value we're providing.
When you say competitor to the Institute or competitor in terms of methodology?
Both. Anything that will make someone go, oh, well, somebody's already doing that and I'd rather be a member of that, or I see that as more esteemed to join. Anything, yeah.
So, quick question. Would this not be part of the marketing rule? I mean, the marketing has to figure our go-to-market messaging. Right. So they need to look at the competitor stuff.
Yes. Okay.
So you're supporting marketing too.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut now.
Good. You're already there.
I mean, maybe the first one to look at is Six Sigma to see what overlaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's Six Sigma, which is focused on techniques as opposed to value from business systems.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you don't need to have a business system to do statistical process control, oddly enough. But, so you can do these kind of things. And so it's very focused on certain aspects of it, but it's not focused on revenue generation, competitive edge. So I think we can differentiate, but Yetunde is going to find that out, and so is Brian.
Yeah, you're right. I was thinking more of the implementation aspects of Six Sigma. That it tends to be very regimented.
I have to say that in all my career, I've not come across anything that the other institutes are doing that overlaps with what we're talking about.
And I would agree because, James, to your point, I use ChatGPT too to go, okay, list me all the other institutes that are doing, something in this arena, and how do we differ? Where's the difference? And it was interesting that it was a clear message that nobody else is doing what you proposed.
Okay, that's useful. Thank you, Ted. So let's move on. I think we've got a fair bit of time to play with. So immediate priorities for the incoming board, agree the meeting cadence, and board members, well, it's basically all of us now. Way forward. So priorities for the board. What are the thoughts there? Let me just duplicate this slide. So well, I mean, if you've done that inquiry in ChatGPT, that's probably a fairly reliable finding. I think the fact that we're all sitting here says that we don't think that there's something that directly competes with this.
I can pass over what I got to Brian and Yetunde. And then, they should validate it and figure out, their perspective on it.
Great. Okay. Well, I think just share with the whole team. And just as a general aside, please CC me with all correspondence, all emails. I like to have the whole picture. Say again?
I was going to say, can we create a shared document repository?
By all means, would you be willing to do that, Brian?
Wasn't it Chris who just said that he could deal with technical stuff?
Yeah,
Christopher.
I can set up a domain for us. I can set up email. I can set up a shared document store. Yeah, I'll deal with all that.
Okay. Other action points?
Well, I was going to say on the competitor side of things, whilst there might not be direct competitors, there might be tangential or peripheral ones. But the other side of that competitor analysis is also what can we borrow and what should we avoid? Because I was for quite a while I was part of the Business Architecture Guild. And I left because it became a dogma-driven semantic debate and discussion around terminology. So I would absolutely want us to avoid some of those things. So I think that competitive analysis is as much about what can we borrow and piggyback from, and what can we avoid.
Okay. Just on that point, my understanding was when I was putting those documents together, the ChatGPT was looking at the accountants, the lawyers, and the engineers in terms of their documents and constitutions and charters. But I totally take the point. Let's look as widely as we can. Other suggestions for, I think that Penny, if you can review the document pack and take whatever initiative you think is relevant there. And that's a couple of hours reading, at least a couple of hours reading. And please, I'll send you the Word version.
Lovely.
And what I'll do after this call is I'll send out an email to all of the people on the call with all of you in copy, so that we've all got everybody's email addresses and we can just coordinate there as appropriate. But I think, Penny, if you could, I think there are two pieces to this, maybe more. The first is just to familiarize yourself with the contents and express an opinion on a scale of 0 to 10. We know this is absolutely horrible. I'm going to have to start from scratch. And 10 is, this is fantastic. It covers every base and there's nothing more to be done. And I'm kind of guessing it's probably somewhere between those two. And then if you think it's appropriate, I'll work with you and facilitate a meeting with Guy Krieger and see if he's willing to give us a couple of hours just to run through it and give us a high-level legal opinion to make sure that we're not committing some really significant faux pas that's going to bite us in some point in the future.
Lovely. Do you have other documentation, or is this just the core immediate document?
That's all there is, other than the various emails that I've sent out in the last few weeks.
That's fine.
I mean, literally, I tell you what happened here. I've been in South Africa. I wanted to do this, and I kind of took the easy way out. I wrote articles for the Institution of Civil Engineering saying, applying engineering principles to IT, etc. And I never got to do anything about it. And I've been kind of mulling over it for ages. And then I just saw some of the stuff that was posted on LinkedIn, and it started kind of stirring, scratching an itch. And I just one day I said, you know what, I need to do something about this. And so as I say, I penned this 4-page document, gave it to ChatGPT, and then it started producing these documents which actually look quite good. So I got carried away, and I spent about 4 days with ChatGPT, produce a draft, tune the draft, next document, and the thing was, every time it gave me a document, it would say, well, I could do this and I can do this. And I said, oh, that looks interesting. That looks interesting.
Yeah. I have the same problem with it.
And so I over a period of about 4 days, I probably spent, I don't know, about 15, 20 hours pulling that back together. So it's I'll be interested to get your thoughts on it. What else do we need to look at? What did I have on the list of this thing here? Oh, meeting cadence. I would like us to have a monthly progress meeting, which would just basically be this group of people once a month for an hour, if that's okay with all of you.
Works for me.
Fine.
Apologies all. I am expecting a call now-ish, so in case it does come through, I'm going to have to drop off.
Okay, no problem. Does anybody have any particular days of the month or days of the week or days of the month that are no-nos in terms of a monthly meeting?
Mondays are always bad for me.
Okay.
Tuesdays are bad for me.
Fridays maybe are good because the week starts to wind down a bit.
Yeah, my tentative suggestion would be same time, same place. Last Friday of the month.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind that the time zone's going to jump in a couple of weeks' time. And then, as I mentioned a couple of times, I kind of visualize a let's call it I'm conscious of the comment that was made a few minutes ago about not calling it technology. Should we call it a methodology meeting, which would be an open meeting where we would invite others to come along and we get a guest, we get a speaker each month, which we could start possibly, Jakob, with you giving a talk about your methods. I could talk about my methods. And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
Brian, you're on mute. Sorry.
That would be something that I would think of being something as an after hours thing. Although after hours is difficult because, I mean, Ted, you're something like 6 hours you're 6 hours behind us, and Jakob, you're 2 hours ahead of us. So
yeah, right now I'm actually 8 hours.
Are you 8 hours? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking you were. Say again?
Sorry, I've hopefully fixed my speaker. I preferred the language we used earlier in the meeting, which is around frameworks and guidelines rather than methodologies. So, sorry, I'm just.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would be tempted to go for the middle of the month. And I would be tempted to go for, say, if we go for 5 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. GMT, that's 7 o'clock for you, Jakob, and it's a little bit later for people who are coming from UAE and places like that. And it's not too early for Ted coming from the other side of the world. So if we say 5 p.m. GMT.
For me.
And is there any preference to day of the week?
Yeah. Again, any day but Monday.
Any day
Friday.
but Monday.
This
Friday's
day.
good.
Friday.
Yeah.
I have a problem. I have on the side, I have a religious ministry, and I do a radio broadcast at 5 o'clock on Friday. So
Thursday?
Thursday works for me.
Works for me too.
As long as you avoid the first Thursday of the month, because I'm on top of those.
Or shall we say second Thursday?
Okay.
So then there's a piece here about which I didn't think of as administration, secretarial. Somebody needs to make sure. I'm kind of set up to do this to a point, but I think I've got quite a lot of other things on my mind, and I might kind of drop the ball. Somebody needs to send out reminders and invites and things like that. So I think that the people who are what did we call this? Frameworks and guidelines. The people who are looking at marketing and membership, could you, Brian, could you coordinate that?
Not really my strength, I have to say, admin.
Oh, okay. Is there anybody? Is there anyone who's fairly strong on a sort of an admin scheduling meetings and follow-ups, etc. Who's willing to stick their neck out and say, okay, do that. Look, I can do it. I tell you what, let me, I'm all set up to do this. So, James, to look after meeting invites and scheduling. And then maybe in a couple of months' time, we've got a few extra bodies on the team, and we can.
Yeah.
Is there any other function that we or activity that we should be taking into account at this stage? Just on this point, I'm looking at it from a point of view that if it's got your name against it, you're going to take the initiative and you're going to run with it. I don't want to become a nursemaid. So whatever we come out of this meeting, I'll send the Zoom AI digest of the meeting, whether it's any good or not. I don't know. I've only just started using it. And I'll send you a recording of the meeting. But I'm kind of looking to each one of you to step up to the plate and say, right, I'm going to take the initiative. I'm going to make this thing happen. Is there anything else we need to look at? Okay, so folks, we've got 20 minutes left. Sorry, I'm just getting this onto my screen, so I'm not staring up into this. Any general comments, thoughts, vision? How has this been for all of you? Are you having a sense that this is something that you're glad that you showed up today, and that you see that this thing potentially has some legs?
I think it's certainly something that's required, and I think it's something that will help businesses. I also think that it's associations like this are a good way to get the message out, and to show that we care about this sort of thing. So no, I think it's good.
Thanks, Christopher. Other thoughts?
I think it's much. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Penny.
All I was going to say is I think it's much needed. I think if I go back to 1976, when the white paper on quality was introduced by the then government, it addressed the appalling quality of the automotive industry in the UK. And I think quality is all part of productivity, which we're lacking. And anything we can do to make business more productive as applying to quality standards and processes has to be good.
Okay, thank you.
It's all pretty behind the times here in the UK, I have to say. The various manufacturers that I've visited over the years, they seem to be very much in the dark ages. I'm wondering, you mentioned government studies. I wonder if there's any possibility of getting some kind of government recognition or some sort of government push on this. I know that there are.
Christopher, I certainly see that as something that we work towards.
I too.
I think it'd be premature to try that now, but I'm hoping that within this time frame of 18 months, which I've arbitrarily selected, by the end of the 18 months, I'm hoping we will have a credible membership base. And when I say credible membership base, 30, 40, 50 people, maybe 100 people. and we'll have some substance that we can go to government and say, right, we'd like to, initiate a process for us to receive some form of recognition.
I did when I worked for IBM many years ago. We did a bit of survey. It started off as a sort of if you like, a marketing vehicle, which is to do a survey of industry best practices around manufacturing at that time. And we worked with London Business School to do a survey across UK manufacturing businesses that then got turned into a PR scheme, which then got picked up by what was then the Department of Trade and Industry.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually sort of, and my boss at the time actually went to speak to the one of the different bodies in the government. One of those what are they called, where they get a group of cross-parliamentary group to look at some of those things and the rest of it. And I think that's an interesting model. I've got a professor contact at Loughborough whose research area is all about ERP program effectiveness as well. Okay. So I'm sure that those types of things where we can get attention from industry bodies and others.
And that professor would be an ideal member.
Yeah.
If we can get a couple of fairly publicly heavyweight or relatively heavyweight members, it's going to give us a big step up.
Yeah. So I think it was that for Chris. It was that link that said we did. That's what we did, and that's how we got attention. We got attention for what we'd done, and then that became if like an accredited best practice model.
For sure,
it was supported.
I guess I was thinking of it more from the perspective of spreading the word, because of course, any government involvement turns the tap on in terms of potential government grants. Government grants leaves money to actually help with the marketing. Marketing helps drive membership, right?
Well, my ambition is that at some point, and it could be quite a long time into the future, and I'm not going to stick my neck out and put a number of years to it, but you get to a point where there's and it's more pronounced in South Africa for whatever reason than it is here on the civil engineering side. But there you have a statutory body which issues a license, and you can't actually practice without a license from the Engineering Council. And furthermore, if you are negligent and you mess up and you do damage, you will be brought before a panel of your peers and you will be disciplined, which can go as far as revoking your license. And in the extreme case in South Africa, you can end up in jail if you kill people. I'm not suggesting that we necessarily want to get quite that far, but I'm just saying that those are the sort of things that can happen if you have a strong body that is pushing for it. But I would like to get to a place where in 5 to 10 years' time, any seriously minded corporation that's about to embark on a business systems project will automatically come to us and say, give us a list of your members. And if they're talking to, say, well, we only want accredited fellows and senior members of the Institute on our project. If they're not members of the Institute, we don't want them on our project. That's a bit far in the future, but I think we should be aiming for it.
Yep.
Cool.
Right. I think we've just about exhausted the conversation. So I'm just going to whip around the room quickly for a closing last thoughts. And I'm just going to follow what's on my screen. So I'm going to start with Penny.
I think that the framework we've got, with the people we've got, obviously we're all extremely interested, otherwise we wouldn't be here. So let's go for it.
Great. Thank you. Christopher?
Sorry, me? All right. Yep. Okay. Well, I look forward to getting to know all of you a little bit better on this project. I think as as Penny says, it's something we're all keenly interested in and would like to make happen. So let's do it.
Right. Jakob?
Yeah, same from my side. I'm looking forward to knowing everyone much better. So much brain power here. I'm always here to learn new things, collaborate, become a better person. So I'm really looking forward to this as well.
Great. The other thing, just sorry, I'm just jumping about a bit here, that the marketing team could think about is, if we were all living in the same town, we might have a social event. And I think there's no harm in thinking in terms of saying, just on an impromptu basis, saying let's all get together. I'm not going to say after work, because after work is different times for different people, but let's get together for half an hour and just have a chat, just a social get together, get to know each other a bit better. But I'm not going to put that in place. I'm going to leave that to the marketing people to do that. Who's the marketing people anyway? Brian. So Brian, I'll leave that.
I could have just gone. Yatunde is the marketing person, couldn't I?
Right.
She's not here.
Yeah. Ted, any thoughts from your side? Last closing thoughts?
Yeah. It's kind of amazing. Nobody else has come up with this before. I think it's a great idea. So thank you for launching this.
Oh, thank you. As I said, it's just because of my pedigree, where I came from. And I think the majority of practitioners, something about this industry that we're involved in is that a substantial number of the practitioners just kind of got there because it was something that interested them. They didn't come out of any sort of professional development channel. I mean, I suspect if you look at where we've all come from, it's all over the place. And I think a lot of the practitioners don't know it's possible. And I think that's really all I've done is I've said, well, I had this in another industry and I'd like to have it here. But thanks for that. Brian, thoughts from your side?
No, I'm keen to give it a go, basically. I mean, unlike you, I've never been part of a professional institute because I never really, wasn't really sure what value I would get from those. I've looked at it several times, but never. It's quite interesting because I've just completed a piece of work with the Institute of Directors, actually, looking at their order to cash processes, which are shocking.
Okay.
But it'd be interesting to, I suppose, try and create an institute which is meaningful to people.
Great. Thank you. Peter.
I think it's a good point to take the first step because, I'm also coming from a background where there's really no guidance in how professionals go about it. There's just a lot of competition without collaboration. So I think this platform will create that necessary community for professionals. So thank you.
Folks, I think we're done. Thank you so much. And I will send you the follow-up to this a little bit later in the day. And I look forward to working with all of you to make a real difference in our industry.
Cool.
Likewise.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Great weekend.
Radio. Bye.
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 Uh,